let's welcome our first guest, Catherine Hodder. Catherine Hodder is a former estate planning attorney who now focuses on writing helpful articles for members of the sandwich generation. Her book, Estate Planning for the Sandwich Generation, is an Amazon #1 bestseller, and she speaks frequently to groups and organizations about the importance of estate planning in protecting yourself and your family. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
I have to tell you, I'm a little jealous of you. I am. You know, my own book only made it to #2 on the Amazon list. And, you know, I'm going to have to give our producer some business about this. I told him that we can't have any guests who ranked higher than me on the Amazon list. But I guess this time, because it's you, we'll let it slip through. Is that fair?
Well, I appreciate that.
So tell us your personal story about what motivated you to write this book.
Well, the reason why I actually wrote this is because I am an estate planning attorney. I am in the sandwich generation, and I really want people to understand how estate planning can help them. My father, many years ago, had very specific wishes about his end of life, meaning don't hook me up to machines, that type of thing. I told him at the time, you know, you need to put this in writing because I'm not going to be arguing with Mom about your wishes. And at that time, he did get all his estate planning documents together.
Good.
And then he began what became a 10-year battle with Alzheimer's. And through that, I learned firsthand how helpful estate planning documents can be, such as who has power of attorney for finances. If he's hospitalized for an extended period of time, who is going to take care of the finances? If he's hospitalized as well, who can get information and make medical decisions when he can't? And also at the time, I was in finance. But going through that experience and then going into the practice of law, I decided I really wanted to help other people understand what I lived, and the fact that you are going to deal with future life events as we age, and estate planning can really help those hassles or make things less hassle.
And I bet it's made you a much better attorney, the fact that you lived this personally. You know, it's not just now you're doing estate end-of-life planning for somebody because, you know, you read it in the textbook and you were smart enough to pass the bar. You know, you had to go through it yourself. That has to help in a lot of ways, I can imagine.
Well, and you do. You experience things that you say, oh, I assume this durable power of attorney will, you know, that you get online will work anywhere. But then the bank that takes it and says, well, now we need our legal department to look at it. And then you step back and realize, like, well, actually, a durable power of attorney needs specific language that a bank will be comfortable with, meaning if they follow the instructions, they're not going to be sued. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you may, I guess, assume would happen if you did certain things. And you've come to find out that, you know, especially with stringent HIPAA laws, trying to get information of next of kin is not as easy as you would think it would be. And it's especially a problem if you don't live in the same town as your parents and, you know, are calling in. It's tough to get information and to prove to the doctors that they can talk to you.
Now, we've got about 45 seconds left to the commercial break, and in that time, give us like 2 of your top piece of advice for helping with parents who might be becoming ill, that top part of the sandwich, because then when you come back after the break, I want to talk to you about the children.
Great. Well, you know, for the parents, I would think #1 first is communication, finding out what plans they have, what estate planning documents they may have or may need to get, especially with regards to health care decisions and with regard to finances.
Okay. #1.
The second piece is really, and this is, I found extremely important for most families, to have one place where you have financial, legal, and medical information. We would give it to our clients and calling it a 911 binder, meaning when you got a call from a hospital, you knew exactly where your healthcare power of attorney is on your parents, so you can then go talk to the doctor. If you needed to pay bills or taxes, you had the financial power of attorney that you could go to the bank. You had a list of their medications. You knew where their safety deposit box was.
All in one spot. That's great. That is great advice. We need to take a commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Catherine Hodder. It's time to welcome back Catherine Hodder, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Estate Planning for the Sandwich Generation. So Catherine, you gave us some good advice for the top end of the sandwich, the parents, and about communicating with them on the estate planning side, making sure the documents are squared away, and then also having everything in one place. Very important, because you never know when something's going to happen. But now let's talk about the other part of it that is even a little more emotionally sensitive, perhaps, and it's those adult children who perhaps aren't quite financially self-sufficient yet.
Right. And, self-sufficient or not, estate planning is something you should really look at where your children are. So, for example, with grown children, they may have left your nest, but if they're in another state and get injured or hospitalized, how are you going to get information on them or be able to make medical decisions for them? It's a good idea to have a healthcare power of attorney for them. And also if you have minor children, you should be able to name guardians for them so that should something happen to you, you have made the decision of who would take care of your children, not leave it up to a court that doesn't know you, doesn't know your children, and doesn't know your family dynamics.
So what's the best way then, let's say that I've got a child that's in my house and tried to find a job, couldn't quite pull it off, needs some financial help. Maybe there's just some reason why they're never going to have really extremely high earnings potential. And I want to make provisions for that person. And I know it's different for everybody in terms of how they structure their estate plan, but what are a couple simple things that people should be considering at least in a scenario like that?
Well, if you have real concerns about a child being able to manage money, especially if you're talking about inheritance, you don't want a child who really can't manage money to come into a whole bunch of it. So there's things you could do within wills, such as create a spendthrift trust. And you could also set up a living trust, or called a revocable trust, where they're the beneficiary, but they really can't pull out the money themselves. You would make the money available for things like maintenance, support, healthcare, education. But, if they wanted to get a car, the trustee that you would name, who would handle the money, would be saying, let's look at a Honda rather than a Ferrari.
And just so people know, the primary reason for a trust really is, if you're in law school studying this stuff, as you were, the primary reason is to be able to manage your money from the grave. So isn't it true that with a good estate planning attorney, you can get really creative? For example, you can say, okay, I want to motivate my child. So every dollar that they earn in a given year, they could match that dollar with an equal withdrawal from the trust. Almost like matching on a 401k. So you can get fairly creative with trusts. Isn't that one of the big benefits?
Yeah, you absolutely could. But one thing I would like to caution viewers is that we like to say, even though you can rule from the grave, think about what those rules are. So, for example, it may be very important for your child to attend college. But if something happened to you and the trustee is there to figure that out, what if your child is wildly successful as a chef and wants to go to culinary school? Does that qualify as a college? What if they're a terrific inventor like a Bill Gates and they, really want to pursue an invention that they're doing? I mean, you really don't want to, give them sort of golden handcuffs.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is you need to make sure you think it through thoroughly, because if you're trying to use a trust for managing money from the grave, then if you don't think it through thoroughly, it's always going to be the one thing you didn't think of that's going to be the gotcha. And that's good advice.
Well, yeah,
unfortunately, Catherine, we need to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Income Generation. We'll be right back.